Just imagine that you invest 1 million naira equivalent. Would you have more profit in the Nigerian exchange or in the New York Stock Exchange? Let us take a closer look at this. Today, we are comparing the Nigerian stock market to the American stock market. We will limit the scope of this coverage to the past 5 years, and these results might shock you. We will all together compare both market returns, right, their growth trends, real data you can verify by yourself, and in the end, I will give you the market that actually wins. You would not want to miss this, so stick around to the end of this video. This video will be divided into 3 parts for context. So part 1, we look at the market performance. Let us start with Nigeria. The Nigerian Exchange All-Share Index has been on a massive run. From 2020 to 2024, the market returned about 383% total growth. In 2024 alone, it gained about 38%. Then in 2025, we saw a massive 51% growth in the all-share index. And it did not stop there. The Nigerian Exchange is ranked among the top performing stock markets globally in 2025. Meaning 1 million naira invested around 2020 would have gone to about 4 million naira. That is a solid 4x right there. Now, let us look at the US market performance. We use the S&P 500 as a benchmark. This index tracks the top 500 companies in the New York Stock Exchange. Over the past 5 years, the S&P 500 returned about 90% total. That is from 2020 to 2025. This is based on widely tracked data. This means $1,000 invested in 2020 becomes about $1,900 in 2025. That is strong. But the next chapter is where things get a little bit more interesting. So let us do a direct comparison now. Based on the Nigerian Exchange All-Share Index, the market grew by 238% from 2020 to 2024. Then in 2025, it added another 51%. That is massive local rally. Going by the S&P 500, New York Stock Exchange had a growth of 90% in the last 5 years. That is not bad. I know the question in your head right now will be, so Godwin, which market wins? Nigerian Exchange won by a wide margin. Over the last 5 years, Nigerian stocks outperformed the US stocks significantly in percentage returns. So here is the harsh truth before you rush into the Nigerian Exchange. There is something important you must know. The Nigerian Exchange gives a higher return, which is good, but it has a higher risk, which is not good. And there is currency depreciation, which is naira risk. That is bad too. Then the New York Stock Exchange gives more stable investment. That is fine. Global companies, which is solid. Lower returns, that is not so good. So for part 2, let's look at the journey of 2 investors. And these are real experiences of these 2 investors. These 2 investors invested about the same amount of money. And at the same time, one invested in the Nigerian market, the other invested in the US market. 5 years later, the difference is shocking. So for the sake of this video, let's call these 2 investors Okon and Smith. Okon invested 1 million naira in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Smith invested $1,000 in the US stock market. So both of them started in 2020, right? Both had the same goal, which is to grow their money, but they chose different markets entirely. Smith played safe and went with global giants like the Apple Incorporation, the Tesla, the Microsoft, right? Big global powerhouse. He felt safe. These are companies everyone knows. And over 5 years, this portfolio grew steadily to about a positive 90% return. Not bad at all, right? But Okon took a different route entirely, which seemed risky at first. He stayed in Nigeria. He invested in NGX companies like MTN, Dangote Cement, and Bua Foods. At first, it was slow. Then suddenly, things changed, right? The market rallied. Inflation pushes prices up, and there was massive local demand for goods and services in the country. And then, boom, some stocks doubled, tripled, and even some quadrupled in a short while. So let us compare the both markets based on their industries. So let's look at communication, right? For the NGX, we have MTN Nigerian Communication PLC. This stock showed a massive rebound in 2025, over 130% gain in 2025 alone. This was driven by tariff increases, FX stabilization, and profit recovery. So for the New York Stock Exchange, we look at Apple Incorporation. This stock did a 200% total return on the last 5 years. It has a widely tracked market data. This market enjoys stable and consistent markets, which is driven by iPhone ecosystem and its services revenue. So the verdict here is the short-term winner is MTN with an explosive growth. As per long-term consistency, Apple held it down. So the next industry that we'll look at is the industrial sector. So for the Nigerian exchange, we'll consider Dangote Cement PLC. This stock did 500% in the past 5 years. This stock also did 37% just in 2025 alone. It has strong fundamentals in its industry because it dominates local cement market. And also its product has high pricing power. For the New York Stock Exchange, we look at Tesla. It is arguably one of the best performing stocks globally. Over 800% growth in its 5 years peak range. This was driven by electronic vehicle revolution, artificial intelligence, and energy business. The verdict here is that Tesla took the day because it is causing global disruption and scale, but Dangote is more stable locally. So if you found this video informative so far, kindly do me a favor, kindly subscribe to this channel right now, and also you can like and share this video with people around you that wants to learn about investment and finance, right? So with that said, let's get back to the video. We look at fast moving consumer goods now. For the NGX, we look at Bua Foods PLC. This is one NGX biggest growth driver. Since its listing, this one has done about 1,200%. It is the key contributor to over 50% market expansion in the Nigerian exchange in 2025. It also stands as a huge inflation hedge. Now let's look at the New York Stock Exchange. We're going to be looking at Coca-Cola. This one gives a very stable dividend payment, right? We saw a 50 to 70% growth in the past 5 years. So the verdict in this category is that Bua Foods take higher growth margin. Then Coca-Cola is very stable, plus it pays consistent dividends. So after 5 years, Smith's $1,000 became $1,900. So what about Oko's 1 million naira? It became almost 4 million naira. Remember that their investment was at the same time, and now completely different outcomes. So that takes us to the third part, which is the verdict. Just hold on. This is where most people get it wrong. Oko made more money, right? but he also took more risk because while stocks were rising, the naira was slowly falling. This is the part nobody tells you. Returns don't tell the full story. Yes, Nigeria outperformed by a large margin, but the US gave stability, strong currency, and predictable growth. Who really wins? The Nigerian exchange has explosive short-term gains. Some stocks went up to 400% and as much as 1,200%. New York Stock Exchange wins long-term compounding, global dominance, and it is in a more stable currency, which is United States dollars. In conclusion, the real question is not NGX versus New York Stock Exchange. It is how you position yourself in both of these markets. So if you had to choose, would you go for speed or stability? Or would you combine both and go for speed and stability all at the same time? So the real winner is the person that do not choose one side. The smartest investors don't choose one market, they combine both. Nigerian stocks for fast growth opportunities, US stocks for long-term wealth and safe global exposure. This is where strategies like the barbell strategy comes in play. This is how savvy investors play the game. If you found this video valuable, please kindly subscribe to this channel because I break down investing in ways that can actually make you money. You may want to check out this video to see how NGX stocks is giving free cash to its shareholders. Remember, wealth is not luck. It is built from information followed by execution. Until I see you next time, stay well.